It's such a pleasure to talk to the three of you. I was watching the film and thinking that if I was an actress on this film, because there is not a book this time, I would want to have lunch and dinner and breakfast with J.K. Rowling every day. So do you take turns?
Yeah, we wish.
We wish.
She's very elusive.
We were just saying she apparates in and out occasionally.
Yeah.
But then when she does, when you get the nuggets, they're always such juicy nuggets that you kind of then pour over them in your mind for the next year or two and try and unravel what each word could have meant.
Did she mean this?
Yeah.
You said something, I can't say what the detail is,
Yeah.
but you said something that I was thinking about over the weekend was she asked about another character's future. And the reaction was so emotional. I mean, because these people, these characters are absolutely alive, and obviously, when they're yet to be shared with either us or indeed the audience, they're alive they're inside her. So she's going through this emotional journey of all the characters internally.
Yeah, it's crazy and
The
amazing.
whole world is so real for her. I mean, I think that's what was most striking when I first met her. Was you say, what's going to happen with this character? She doesn't say, there's lots of different avenues we could go down. I don't know. She's like, well, on the 3rd week of March, it's already there in her mind and so detailed. It's kind of uncanny.
But do you get to do your homework as well? I mean, I'm sure, on Albus Dumbledore, there's a family tree and a whole history. And
a lot of it's in the Potter books.
Yeah, exactly. So was that like a point of research for you?
Oh, absolutely. But as I said, a lot of that is in the Potter books. But what's extraordinary is she has that for all the characters. And what you would be seen as the smaller characters, they have a relevance and a place too.
And the Scamanders have a whole family tree. And
They
history.
do. Yeah, but there was one point, an example of this in this film, which is that in this film you see Newt's assistant, Bunty, and they just have this one little scene together, but their relationship is so filled with something. But so I was asking, or Victoria and I, the actress who plays Bunty, were asking Jo, what is their background? And she literally came the next day with 3 pages of their relationship, and that was so special. It's a really kind of...
And then you put it on eBay?
Instantly. No. Genuinely not.
No, Jo, no.
And what about you? How do you get to research her to just...
Well, actually, for this film, I watched a lot of detective and cop movies because so much of this film, she's kind of skulking around and spying on things and trying to kind of go, unnoticed. And also because in the first film, she's sort of flailing about and a little lost in her life and at work. I wanted her to be a bit smoother now and a bit tougher, but I'm not really naturally that way. So I watched Serpico a lot, strangely, just because he has such a great kind of swagger and ease, and even just his eyes. But then, you start feeling bad about yourself that you're not as good looking as Al Pacino, which kind of put me off it for a bit.
Well, Jude, you've been around. How do the sets compare?
The block.
I've been like many films.
That is a first. There was me just 5 minutes ago thinking, God, this new business is just so exciting. And now I've been around.
Hey, old man.
You have been around, but do you get excited?
Please don't say it again.
I shall not. You're starting your career with this wonderful role.
Well, he is the young Dumbledore.
Exactly.
This little ingenue.
Just
stepping out into the...
Whenever Jude's been asked about young Dumbledore, he's always been really deferential after your comment.
Yeah.
It's like, he's freaking young,
and dynamic and
Exactly,
full of energy.
yeah.
Well, what I mean is that I've been on a Harry Potter set, and it's so exciting that you feel like a kid in a candy store. Was it the same feeling for you?
This was absolutely a whole new experience. Stepping into something with this bigger following and history of love and but also just as a production, it's got a lot of the same people that did the Potters, and that's become a really close-knit family. It's also become an incredibly smooth-running machine, and that's before you even embrace all the fans around the world who we talked a little bit about already and their passion. you're stepping into a really big world, but it's also weirdly, or certainly for me and my family, a world that you feel familiar with because it's been in my life for nearly 20 years because I was reading the books to the kids and then going to the movies with the kids to watch the films. So I have a relationship with it, but it's sort of,
Yeah.
rather than looking through the window, I'm now
Inside
in
it.
the party, which is great.
No, it is. And the fans, do they become, I mean, obviously, after the first one, do the fans become a little bit part of the process for you guys? Yeah.
They absolutely do. We because when we make them, they're made in Leavesden in Watford in such secret conditions that we're not allowed to print scripts. The scripts come up on computers and kind of disappear if you look at them for too long. The whole thing is made in such a vacuum that it's only really when you start to tiptoe out into the world with the film and meet the fans and see people dressed up as Tina and Dumbledore and Newton, you kind of, and with so much effort put into every little detail, that it's kind of underlined quite sort of what place in their heart that it sits at. Does that make any sense? Where
It's like being on a sports team, and the fans have been here longer than we have, and you feel that you have a responsibility to them, of course, because they're out there supporting you, but also you feel the energy of their affection and that sense that they're rooting for us, and I think that really helps us in the moments where we start to feel maybe overwhelmed by the size of the responsibility.
Do you share my now frustration that I have to wait a couple of years to know what's going to go on and there's not a book that you can kind of cheat with?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we literally just sit and wait for the script to arrive in our inbox and then sort of pour over it. And you were saying this earlier, we're only like a few months ahead of you guys. We only know at the last minute as well.
Well, it's good old-fashioned storytelling, though, isn't it? It's only in the last 10 years that we've gotten used to downloading, the box set in its entirety, where we can binge if we want over 3 days.
Yeah.
It's kind of healthy to sit and wait. And also, I think as a film, it's worth revisiting over and over because there's so much detail and little hints of threads and relationships that are broken or rekindled, or worth going back to.